How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Glad to hear it. So let me go into the agenda and we'll just get started on the and awesome. All right, we see you guys. So what's this about 5G specialization?
Oh gosh. Yeah, so this is about 5G.
So 5G specialization for Cradlepoint it's really around being able to leverage the Cradlepoint product, Cradlepoint solution as it pertains to our 5G technologies. The main goal behind it was being able to adequately install the equipment as well as being able to manage, monitor, maintain the equipment on an ongoing basis. So what we did with the advent of 5G and how sensitive the 5G outdoor technologies are, including millimeter wave, we decided it'd be a good idea to really provide a specialization to specific partners that were able to take on the task of performing the installs, as well as coaching their customers and providing a very valid and adequate service to the environment.
We really appreciate it. I feel like we, from the start, tried to get every bit of information we can about 5G, what's upcoming, and what's going on, especially along with this webinar series, which I feel a little unnatural just breaking into this and not going, we're in person.
Right.
We're not floating heads talking this time, which is crazy. So really glad that you join us. And so we're honored to be a part of it. Definitely a bit of work to get involved, which is a good thing because we want to ensure that everybody who has the specialization, everybody that's certified and capable of installing 5G equipment and certified to not only install but support and, as David said, inform customers about what you need, what you have, and what's available to you is really what we're going to be specialized on and what we're specialized on going forward. So you want to go into what it kind of took to get to this point?
So really, to get to the point, there were a series of steps that had to be taken ahead of time. So all of our partners have to be properly certified for their levels of support that they provide. It's based on various tiering mechanisms that we have in place. And what they do is their engineers, their sales folks, and everyone, they take certifications and trainings to know that they know the products, they know the solutions and the services from end to end. And adapting upon that and growing upon that, we built out some 5G specific curriculum that allowed them to just learn what 5G specifically was about. And we threw in some specifics catered towards the Cradlepoint products, but a lot of it was really training them on the 5G technology as a whole, learning how to capture that proper RF. What it means to be on specific bands for 5G technology and what the 5G technology really means. And then, so from there, they would go through various 5G certification classes for both sales and professional use. We have to develop a business plan on, best to market, how to market towards the customers, and then end all how to actually install the products that they are able to train on. So they had hands-on experience with actually unboxing the product, seeing the differences between the 5G internal and external adapters as compared to a standard Cradlepoint router or standard Cradlepoint adapter. And then being able to actually install it in a way that maintains its weatherproofness, has it pointed properly for tower acquisition, and just running the services through the NetCloud platform.
Yeah, and remind me, it's majority, if not all, of us had to get either sales or technically certified under the 5G.
Yeah, there has to be a number of 5G certified users. So a couple, I think it was a couple of sales professionals had to be certified, and then a couple of network professionals. Not necessarily the same person, but in a lot of cases it is the same person, because even though you're a network professional performing installs and being the network engineer, you're also the salesperson for the organization, because you have to be able to, amply speak about a product to be able to educate a customer on how to use the product, what it's best for, and why they should choose.
Yeah, and I was going to say a colleague and me were both taking the 5G certification around the same time. We had just recently gotten our expert theory certification through you guys, and he actually beat me to the mark on it. And I said, "Oh, how was it? What was the test like?" And he said, it's really not far from the expert theory test. It's a lot, and it was, which is awesome because we really want to make sure that everybody who passes that certification really has a good in-depth knowledge of the stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun to go through, but of course, we had a lot of physical requirements as well. So RCN received a W2005, W4005 device from you guys, and we had to follow the instructions, the installation process for installing 5G equipment. And we finally completed that last week.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, so really, really exciting. What's the biggest differences between the W2005, W4005 versus other Cradlepoint products that are 5G?
So we'll start with the W2005. So the W2005 and the 4005 are both outdoor rated devices. So the 5 ending in the name basically indicates that it's an outdoor rated product. Ways that it compares to some of our other 5G products is they're just adapters. So that means they're used as basically an antenna to harness the signal from the towers and then bring them into whatever router device that you have, be it the E300 and E3000, something of that nature. With the W2005, you're looking at a device that's specifically designed for sub-6 capture of 5G service, so anything under 6 gigahertz. So your capacity and coverage layer devices. The W4005, on the other hand, has a millimeter wave antenna array built into it, so it's able, if you're able to target it towards the proper towers that have millimeter wave service, you're able to harness that signal. However, if you don't have that millimeter wave capability there, you do still have that fallback to that sub-6 5 gigahertz. Both of the devices also still have a Category 20 LTE modem in it, so the latest LTE modem specification built into it, so you'll still get that gigabit LTE speeds even if you don't have 5G service.
Awesome, yeah. And I know you guys are probably dying to see what this looks like. Derek, if you can hear us, are you able to show us what these guys look like up on top of the roof?
Oh, here he is. He's here now.
Hey guys,
It's a bright sunny day. So
coming at you live from the rooftop of RCN headquarters in downtown Knoxville. Do a little show and tell here for you. We got our W5000 over here. This is the millimeter wave. It's got some beefy MIMO antennas on it. It's got some pretty LED lights to shine out in the darkness of outside. We're lucky enough to be able to point it directly at a T-Mobile and AT&T tower over this direction. Not sure if you can see it over there. And then if you come over here, we got the W2005 hanging out, pointing at the same towers over here. MIMO antennas as well, just not the millimeter wave, but looking just as pretty as the other one. You guys able to see that okay?
yeah, we can. Thank you. Yeah, what do you guys? Yeah, those are some pretty products, right?
Yeah, heavy products too.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
well, they've got to be ruggedized. They got to be able to withstand the heat, the rain, but they also have to be able to dissipate the heat from that 5G signal that they're bringing in, especially that millimeter wave adapter. When you're bringing in millimeter waves, we're talking 38 gigahertz, frequency range. It can get really, really hot. So you have to be able to dissipate that heat.
Not just the heat from taking in millimeter wave, but also the heat of just sitting out in the beating sun for 10 to 12 hours.
Absolutely.
Really, really impressive that this equipment is going to persevere on through all of that. So it was a lot of fun. My first time personally on RCN's roof, funnily enough.
The one right up top here.
Yeah.
So it's a fantastic device. It's even stylish with our Signal Mountain logo sitting right on top there. But yeah, great little device. Next to those, we also have another 5G sub-6 adapter that's an indoor adapter. It's a W1850. We don't have one of those here, unfortunately, to show you, but just like the W2005, except it's meant for indoor applications. So the exact same kind of design, but.
And of course, we wouldn't see an indoor application for a millimeter wave device because it really wouldn't do you much good, would it?
No, that millimeter wave's not going to go through pretty much anything. I mean, you've got trees in the way and it's going to disrupt your millimeter wave signal even. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, penetrating walls is definitely not going to be a capability that it has. So we're constantly having to battle against trying to get signal from the outside to the inside without losing any of that capability, of course. I was going to say, I think the R1900 might be my new favorite Cradlepoint device, honestly.
why is that?
I love the integration as far as looks go. I love the integration of the logo into the heat sinks, and heat sinks are just sharp. I think you guys are really going in a good direction with sort of the right angles and how everything looks. Before that, I was going to say probably the E3000 was going to be my next favorite for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for branch applications, I mean, I love the looks of the E3000. It's sharp, it's great. It's also a workhorse product. I mean, it's one of the newest branch adapters or branch routers that we have in our portfolio, and it's just crazy fast. So,
Yeah, we've had no issues out of it since installing it, and Cradlepoint products have always been fantastic, but I would argue haven't always looked the best in a rack. So it's really great to see one that spans the entire rack and can sit along with all the other things and a lot more integrated into that piece on top of being just an incredible machine, of course. And the E3000 along with the E300 are, of course, 5G capable with these 5G adapters that we've been talking about this whole time.
yeah, so the E3000 being a 5G ready device, or sorry, 5G optimized device, has a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port on it. So that 2005 and the 4005 Ethernet drops coming directly into the E3000, you're able to maximize that 5G signal you're able to acquire from the towers and really leverage it to its fullest, as well as providing the PoE to power that device up on them.
Yeah. It's really crazy. I'm really excited to talk to more customers about 5G. Like we've discussed in our other 5G and coffee. 5G still isn't everywhere right now, and it really isn't for everybody at this time. If you're near larger cities, even if you're in Knoxville, of course, we're getting really good signal. I was going to say even in the sub-6 network, I think we're just seeing around between 250 and 300 down coming off of the roof right now as we speak. So really, really impressive numbers, which is great to see. So definitely available, definitely going to be great for a lot of people. It's just definitely a good idea to always have a specialist and always have somebody like RCN and Cradlepoint to be able to walk through in the right direction, to be able to tell you, when it's ready for your company to go for something like that and when it's not really.
Yeah, and to go along with the signal, like you said, not all places have that signal that you're able to capture for 5G. But in a way to future-proof, still installing a device like the 2005 or the 4005. We even saw in initial testing with your device that it would drop offline of the 5G, but the Cat20 4G modem picks up, right where the 5G left off without dropping a beat, and it's still screaming fast modem.
Yeah.
So I mean, even if that 5G is not available, or maybe it is limited availability in the area that you're in, it's still a perfectly capable device that helps future-proof you for what's to come as all the carriers start deploying new infrastructure of the towers and start lighting up more areas of its services.
Yeah, I was going to say, whenever we were going through the certification process, in the time in NetCloud it took us to close and open it, it had actually defaulted back to that LTE state for a minute. And I mean, there was no loss in connectivity. You don't even notice a difference in it happening whatsoever. So I mean, there's truly no loss in that situation of getting ready for that.
Yeah, and that's really what the products are designed around. They're designed around keeping you connected in as many ways as possible all the time, right? So if you do happen to lose that 5G signal for whatever reason, maybe the tower decides there's too many subscribers on 5G right now, I'll give you the best 4G I can give you until more paths open up. We provide those mechanisms.
Yeah, which is really great to see. So if we want to go into it, what is this thing we've been gesturing to and sitting in front of this whole time? This is the beginnings really of RCN's 5G test lab environment. I say the beginnings, of course, because as you can see, we have a lot of power antennas on a lot of these devices. A lot of these devices really aren't going to be optimal without external antennas and without running some of those out there and seeing some of the challenges that come with that. But when that happens, really the biggest thing that RCN has kind of found out is that we want to be that expert support. We want to be there for our partners and our customers to be able to get them not only the best recommendations, but also the best support that we can have. And a lot of times in our line of work, the best support comes from a lot of the groundwork that's already been laid by network specialists, knowledge base articles, and all kinds of other plethora of resources that we can learn from. And what's really wild is that 5G is uncharted territory, brand new. Obviously, there's still tons of resources out there, Cradlepoint being a fantastic one of really, really in-depth stuff with 5G. But, we really don't know. One of my favorite things to say in this line of work is the worst problems are the ones you don't know about yet.
Yep.
So being able to have a test environment for customers to be able to call us and say, hey, I've got an R1900, the 5G aspect doesn't seem to be working correctly. It's kind of behaving this way. One of our engineers can say, okay, well, let me get that configuration off of there. Let me load it into our R1900, and then I'm going to take a couple of days just running it through this scenario and trying to recreate this scenario to see the best way to fix that. So it's going to be really, really cool, really exciting, along with a lot of the research and development things that RCN is doing. We're going to be able to use these devices to run them through not only stress testing, of course, to see how everybody stacks up, but also a lot of really great testing, such as, does signal deteriorate faster over the coaxial in 15 feet or over Ethernet in 15 feet? We would say more than likely Ethernet, or more than likely coaxial. But what kind of things are we going to see moving forward? And having this environment to be able to know that rather than guess at it is going to be really, really important.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm looking forward to how this grows and becomes a larger, bigger environment. One of the great things about having an environment like this, and it's kind of unique to RCN in the way that they've dedicated in just specific space just for this lab, is it gives them exposure and gives them a better understanding of the technology and how to use it, how to best harness it, and an opportunity to, well, for lack of a better term, break it and then fix it again, right? So you learn tremendous amount of information by hands-on testing the stuff, deploying the stuff, and just using it on a regular basis. And by setting up a lab like RCN has here, it's just going to enhance their capabilities when it comes to 5G. And I love the idea that they're, pitting 5G devices against each other, trying to see what works best in what applications and what works best, or how they work best, how they might even interoperate, just to find the best solution for the customers. It's a great resource and a great tool for them to leverage.
Yeah, and no hard feelings, of course, I hope, but we always want to make sure that we're providing the best solution for our customers and ensuring that they're getting exactly what they need, not really more or less. And
we
so
would prefer it to be a Cradlepoint, but we understand.
And I would say that majority of the time, Cradlepoint fits that solution so well. We were discussing earlier today that Cradlepoint is ahead in so many facets. I mean, in product development, in partner support, in support in general, just a really, really incredible option. It's the option where you're never going to regret going with it, right? It's always going to work, and it's always going to be there for you and be whatever you need it to be, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and we definitely want to be there for our partners as well as our customers. Just to be available to all the resources that we have at your disposal and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I love that. I love that we're going to be able to, like you said, you learn the most from breaking something. It brings up crazy questions, such as, well, we understand how 5G connects. We understand how, what kind of problems you're going to run into with millimeter wave, when you're going to lose that signal. But what happens whenever you're running a VTI tunnel over 5G? And something weird happens that we haven't seen before. Well, let's rebuild that construction over these two cradle points, and let's see if we can recreate what happened.
It causes issues, causes complications that can arise. And just knowing that you have that T-Mobile and AT&T tower so close, you assume, well, I'm always going to have this service. The 5G is always going to be there. So it's kind of eye-opening, especially when you see, well, why am I on 4G when I know this is 5G? I've got the tower there. Well, it may be oversubscribed. Maybe it's possible that someone's using too much bandwidth at that time, so the tower can't give you that service. It's those things that you don't think about when you're deploying something like this that you have to really get those hands-on to experience. And that kind of wraps around why we do this 5G specialization, because you have to be able to understand how the technology works. I mean, you can read papers all day long, but until you actually test it real world and use it, you don't fully understand what it's capable of or what little nuances you might run into as you go.
And more often than not, failing is the best way to learn. Like you said, breaking it, because I'm sure you can speak to this, but the more papers you read about 5G, the more you get into spectrums, frequencies, RF technology, RF engineering, and it really starts to get muddled after a while with how much knowledge goes into every part of this. It's just really, really incredible that technology has gotten to this point.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can read until you're blue in the face, but until you really touch it, at least for me, until I really touch it, I don't fully harness and understand everything I've read. And I mean, I can be reading this stuff for days, and until it'll finally click once I'm doing something that goes, oh wait, I did read about that 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. And it all makes that much more sense.
Yeah, and that's my favorite, is whenever I'm going through and reading about, how something is affecting something else, and I'm really trying to wrap my head around it. And then, it took me a few weeks, even a month later, I'm working with a customer on something, and something isn't working correctly, and I go, that's the thing I was reading about. That's what happens here, and that's what causes this, and then it all fits in place.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I actually have a question for you guys. I know we're not in the Q&A segment yet, but I saw one of our attendees was from the Middle East. So I don't know if this is outside of your guys' wheelhouse at all, but for those who have like international companies, how important is it to future-proof, right? Like, is 5G just as prevalent in, the Middle East or Europe or Africa as it is in the United States? Do you have any kind of indication of how rollout in other continents are going?
So not so much really in the Middle East and Africa per se, but Europe has a pretty decent rollout of the 5G infrastructure. Everyone worldwide is really going to be trying to harness this 5G technology, the latest and greatest, newest technology out there. One of the best things to do is actually work with and check out the carriers that you have in your areas, see what kind of capabilities they have, to see, if it might be worthwhile to start looking into these investment opportunities. But it never hurts to future-proof. While these might be early technology 5G devices and, earlier radio stuff, they always have their 4G backup, their 4G capabilities. That's tried and true. It's been here for years, and that's not going to go away. So while you might not have the 5G today, future-proofing is almost always a good thing to do. A lot of times sitting back and waiting, you might miss the boat on something, or in the case of the past year and a half, where we've been running into these challenges and starting to see chip shortages and stuff, you might actually miss the opportunity to purchase something and might have to wait even longer until you're able to do that again.
Yeah, and I guess more just to echo that, I mean, if you're in a position where you're already saying, my technology, maybe, I'm on all LTE modems, I'm thinking about redoing everything anyway, there's really no reason not to go with 5G ready technology, because like you were saying, not only is it able to take in LTE just as well as something else, but it's better at it. It can take in just the very best that your LTE in your area has to offer. And so there's really no reason to go with anything less. And then once that gets upgraded in your area, you're ready to go.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to share my screen.
Roll a little bit here.
Yeah. We were just discussing how we're here in RCN's Tech Lab, and our floor has an unnoticeable slight elevation to it that you won't feel until you're on wheels.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about 5G solutions, hardware, things like that. So what's the next step, right? So reaching out to someone who knows what they're talking about, typically, I think you guys would also agree is a smart move, right? So here at RCN, we specialize in 5G and LTE network solutions that enable our customers to connect better We have over 110 years of wireless experience. Obviously, we've been doing this a long time. We know what we're doing. Let's see. We're gonna move on to the Q&A section now. Let's see, I'll stop sharing my screen so we can see you guys again. We had a couple come through here. Let's see. First one. This is very vague, so sorry in advance. But how do you know which device to purchase?
Ooh.
Yeah. So is that? Yeah. How do you make that decision?
Gosh, I mean, it all depends on the use case for me. You know, are you mobile? Are you enterprise? Are you a small business? Every single one of these applications have a different correct choice. You know, if you're a small business, we probably wouldn't recommend an E3000 with 5G adapter. Probably might be a little overkill for you, but would we go with another branch device with another 5G adapter? Very likely. And then, of course, if it was a mobile solution, we'd have to look at something like the R1900, be a great choice. And if you are enterprise and do have a larger company, then the E3000 along with the 2005 or the 4005, if you have millimeter wave in your area, which is another thing that we would want to discuss. And a lot of times, I would say the best thing to do in those scenarios is to just call a carrier and just say, hey, what do I have in my area? What's on the towers nearby? And even if millimeter wave isn't in that area yet, like we've been discussing, if it's within your budget, there's really no reason to go ahead and kick it up to the 4005. Be ready whenever it gets there.
Right. No, I'd agree. And as you're saying, Jacob, it really depends on your use case. I mean, the best thing you can do is actually reach out to your resources and your representatives, like Jacob here at RCN, that can help you find the right products for deployment for your application. I mean, there's a variety of different applications, and they all use different purpose-built equipment and solutions for those applications. So it's tough to say specifically what you might need for a given application. I mean, Jacob gave you a few ideas of what you might use here or there, but it's not to say that those are the only use cases for those products. I mean, the R1900, it might be a mobile product, but that's not to say you can't use it for a small business. I mean, it's a perfectly capable 5G device that has a 4-port switch on it, and is capable of providing Wi-Fi and Bluetooth as well. So it's a perfectly capable device without having to add an adapter in the mix. So it really depends on the use case, and talking to your sales reps and talking to people like Jacob. It's the best way to get things started.
Absolutely. And we have the capability, I was going to say, first of all, 100% agree. Reaching out to us, we're going to ask a lot of clarifying questions. We're not going to try to give you something just because it's been sitting on our shelf for too long. We're going to ask, how many clients are you running at any given time? What's your business? What's your throughput today? What do you do on a daily basis? Do you run a lot of advertisements? Do you stream? These are all a lot of things that are going to clarify what is going to be the best fit for you. I mean, all the way down to, are you in a brick building or wood building? That's going to affect what's going to be the best case. And the best part about Cradlepoint, of course, is that in the event that I can't answer your question, I can reach out to David, who's, I would say, a much more talented expert than I, and get that information one way or another, no matter what, which is really, really incredible. So no matter what, especially in where we're at in today's world where there is so much uncertainty, we really can't go wrong reaching out to a 5G expert and having a discussion.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys for that awesome answer. The second one that we got in, which carriers does Cradlepoint/RCN work with? So I guess first part of that is the Cradlepoint devices. Which carriers are they either certified or would they work with? And then from an RCN point of view, do we have relationships with specific ones? Yeah, David, I'll just take that first.
So as it pertains to Cradlepoint, pretty much all of our devices are global devices in some capacity. We might have a different model for, say, a European version versus a US-based version, but they'll work on at least 80 to 90% of the carriers that are available there. Some might need a specific product or a specific model for a specific carrier. In the case of our IVR 200, which is carrier specific based on the model type, but we provide devices that are capable of pretty much all the carriers.
Yeah, especially here in the US. I was going to say, I think the answer to that question is kind of all of them and all of them. RCN works with all of the major carriers here in the US. Handful of them internationally. We don't have too much of a presence outside of the US, but we have great relationships with all of the major carriers. We're really trying not to play favorites too much and try to always provide the best signal because, of course, in our space, I'm sure you'll agree, it's always a big fight trying to figure out, what does a customer have on their business today as far as carriers go, and what's the best for X given area in this location. And a lot of those times, those two things don't align.
Right. You can only take the carrier maps so much for granted. I mean, you have to kind of understand the territory, understand the regions that they're in, because the carrier is going to say they have coverage across the entire country, right? But we know that that coverage is going to be disparate in some areas. There's going to be weak spots, low spots, all that stuff. So, we're working with, a company like RCN to find those carriers and leverage the resources they have to get you the best rates with the carriers. It's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, and we're always going to be able to get you in touch with. Anytime we're not the right people, we're always going to be able to get you in touch with those right people. Whether it's Cradlepoint, whether it's a carrier, whatever's the best fit in that scenario is what we really want to get to.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. This last question is kind of similar to the first one. From an organizational level, how should I plan or prepare for 5G? So I guess we're going under the assumption that they perhaps don't have 5G in their area yet, and they're looking for how to future-proof their company.
I was going to say, probably say same answer as before.
Pretty much the same answer. Pretty much the same answer as before. But if you're talking internal to your organization itself, you're really going to want to evaluate what's the most important for you to be online. Do I need something that's ultra low latency? Do I need something that's ultra high speeds? Do I need something that can connect, 20 users, 50 users, 100 users? Do I need to provide, 20 VPN tunnels back to my headquarters, or be able to connect to Amazon or Microsoft Azure, something of that nature? You really need to take in what applications need your network connectivity, and then kind of go from there to try and figure out, okay, is 5G really how I want to go with this? Is 4G how I want to go? What's my best route? But once you internalize, what you're looking to accomplish within your organization, coming back and working with a company like RCN will help you take that next step to find out, okay, well, we know what we want to, focus on. Now let's try and find the right solution that meets that need.
Definitely. I would say more often than not, it's not only is it what we do best, but it's also what we prefer doing. In scenarios where we're able to get in early and talk to those companies that have those conversations about what they're kind of looking at, what their plans are, and kind of editing them here and there about what we think would be best. It just makes for the deployment to go so much smoother, and it makes the customer so much happier at the end. So I was going to say, if at any point in time it's ever feeling like, oh, well, I don't just want to, call a company and just talk to them for 45 minutes. No, please do. We would love to, actually. We would love to ensure that you're getting into the right place, you're creating the right plans, and you're putting the right things in place to be able to get ready for the future.
And especially if you don't know what you need or what to look for. Speaking to someone, just shooting you a bunch of questions, trying to figure out what might be the best solution, will usually trigger something. And this goes back to what we were talking about, reading a bunch of stuff and then finally doing something, triggering it. It might actually trigger something that, oh yeah, I do need that in my application or on my network. So, speaking to representatives, trying to figure out what the best solution for you, even knowing what your lightweight requirements might be is really going to be your best choice and your best option. And a lot of times you're not really held to any, requirements that I have to purchase something. It's really finding the right solution for you, with the thought in mind that you're going to come back and purchase a solution from us.
Definitely. And I love that as well, hearing that click, because, say you're trying to set up telehealth. Well, in that situation, latency is going to be really, really important. That one feels kind of obvious, but then say you're an advertising company, it's like, oh, well, we do a lot of streaming and a lot of this, so we want really good speeds, we want really low latency. But we might say, well, how many files are you transferring across the network? How many files are you transferring to different devices, uploading and downloading? Because if we had to take a guess, those are probably gigabits worth of information. And in those situations, oh yeah, I didn't really thought about that. And that's when we can tailor that solution.
And then don't forget security.
Never forget security.
You've always got to think about security. And, you know, as you start thinking about the things your organization needs, you're going to miss something. So talking to people, talking to the right people to find the right solution for you is the best way to really work through this.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel like we can get so caught up about trying to make something work that, like you were saying, somewhere in between we've missed something, and then even 6 months, a year later, we have a breach because of that thing we missed way back when. So getting with an expert early and understanding, you know, just because you can get A to B doesn't mean you're always getting to A to B safely.
Right.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you guys for those really great answers. Definitely appreciate it. So with this, we have come to the end of our presentation. Before we go, I'd like to let you guys know about our next 5G and Coffee webinar. It's going to be August 24th, and we're going to be talking about disaster recovery. So be sure to tune in. David, Jacob, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Do you guys have any parting words that you'd like to leave with the audience?
Got nothing.
David, I did have a question. So
Yes.
we know that the R1900 is Jacob's favorite device. What's your favorite Cradlepoint device?
My favorite Cradlepoint device.
I don't know if this is like picking children for you or.
Well, yeah, kind of is. So it really depends on the application. So when I'm traveling, like coming here to visit RCN Labs, I actually travel with an IBR 900, just because it's probably one of the most mobile devices that we've got. That's very explosive performance out of it. Granted, it is an LTE device. I don't know where I'm going. It's going to have 5G. So LTE works perfectly fine for me to set up my stuff. It's got all the security setup I need. But working at home, I mean, E3000, you know, definitely out of the gate. I mean, it's probably one of the fastest routers that we have, you know, I mean, next to the R1900. But it's just a workhorse. It's got 10 Ethernet ports on it. I mean, it does everything I need it to do. And, you know, coupled with a 5G adapter, I've got that 5G connectivity as well.
I love that. It does everything that Cradlepoint can do.
It does.
And a little bit more. I was going to say, I think whenever it comes to just all around best usefulness, it's really hard to ignore the IBR 900. We're just such a solid device.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. Really appreciate your time today. And thanks to you, all of you in the audience watching today. Really hope everybody has a great rest of your afternoon, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.